Hello, welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy, and as many of you know, my things have been in storage for 16 years, and nothing has survived without some sort of damage to it, and these are no exception. What we have here is some figures from Great Britain that are similar to Timpo in that they're a swap-it form of figure. However, none of these survived the storage experience with the exception of this one figure here. So I'm going to show you a close-up of him. He's very much like a Swap-It, but instead of 54 millimeter, he's more of like 65 or 60 millimeter, perhaps 70 millimeter even. I'm almost afraid to pick it up because as I was removing some of these from the plastic bags, they broke off in my hands. They're very brittle. These figures are over 50 years old, and as such, they're very fragile. Look at all these broken pieces I have now. Let's give you an example of some of the damages. For instance, this horse here, his tail came off, and 3 of his legs are missing. Some of them, the horses are okay, but the riders are broken. For instance, this fella here, he's almost intact, except his hand broke and he won't hold a rifle anymore. But I thought perhaps I could salvage that. I have plenty of rifles, and it's remarkable. They look like they're made by Timpo. See the handguns? They're just like a Timpo handgun. Here's a horse's leg. You know, I would take them to court, but I don't have a leg to stand on. Some of these things cost an arm and a leg anyway. This is like a Timpo rifle also. I suppose that's a Timpo, like a shotgun. But they didn't do too well in storage, I'm afraid. However, I was thinking I should probably save them for the parts. Like these handguns, they are like Timpo, like I had mentioned. Some of these saddles might be salvageable. This poor fella, I was asked by one of my viewers not to use potty humor, so I won't say anything about that. But it's really a pity when you see these things that have been preserved for so many years only to find, as a result of how they were stored, end up being somewhat useless and only worthy of being harvested for parts now. There's not much I can do about it, though. So let's clear this off a little bit. I will show you the manufacturer. They do have them stamped. My vision's very blurry. I can't see if that's focused for you or not. But it looks like it's saying Charlia of Great Britain. This horse here is not standing up too well, I'm afraid. See how he's bent over like that? So it makes it very difficult for him to stay standing. And eventually, I suppose that will lead to his inevitable demise. These lunch boxes you see in the background are reproductions of lunch boxes from the 1950s. They don't have thermoses. They are made of metal. And I had these figures stored inside them, inside of plastic bags, which you see there. And so I thought, they'll be safe in there, including being in a plastic bag, but it was not to be, I'm afraid. Okay, guys, I don't know much about Charlia. I looked them up online and I could find examples of their toys, but I couldn't find a company history. I looked it up on Wikipedia and didn't find anything there. I do know that they started out making painted lead soldiers in Great Britain, and then sometime in the 60s or 70s, they started making these swap-it style figures that were very, very similar to Timpo in their poses and appearance. However, there is slight variations in the size, for instance. That's the most obvious difference between the two. I'm sorry I can't present them to you in a better condition. I think those of you that like Cowboys would have liked to have seen these in their pristine condition. But it was not meant to be. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for joining the Iggy Army. Thank you for getting Iggy with it. And why don't we head back to Roy Rogers Ranch? We'll see Roy and Dale. And maybe the chow wagon is there and we can get a little barbecue. Some baked beans over a campfire. That would be delicious. Some bacon. That's all I got for you. Adios, amigos.